One of the most popular questions I get asked is, which carbon steel pan is better, the Matfer or the Dubai Mineral B? These two manufacturers are often compared and put head to head against each other. Although they are both carbon steel pans, they act very differently. So which one should you buy? Let's dive in. Okay, so those of you who watch my videos already know that the Dubai Mineral B is my favorite pan. So for those of you that want a straight up answer to which one I personally like more, there you have it. The video's over, the Mineral B wins. But for those of you that are interested in why, stick around and I'll give you my personal reasons why the Dubai Mineral B is the right choice for me. But up front, I just have to say that both pans are amazing and you really can't go wrong with either or. Okay, so in order for you guys to really understand why I personally love the Dubai so much, we first need to talk about carbon steel and compare it to cast iron and stainless steel. Now, I'm not going to dive into a full-blown comparison because I've already done that in past videos. Actually, in several videos, doing just that, comparing carbon steel, cast iron, and stainless steel. If you're interested, check them out, I'll put them here. But basically, long story short, carbon steel acts and performs somewhere in between cast iron and stainless steel. It can do everything cast iron can do, minus the weight and the mass, which makes it a little bit more responsive like stainless steel. It also has the same weaknesses to acidic foods and needs to be seasoned just like cast iron. But it also offers that non-stick cooking surface and sheer power. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's dive deeper into the two brands. Let's talk about the Matfer. This one's the 12 5/8 of an inch model. It's a bare, no-coated carbon steel pan. Actually, both the Matfer and the Dubai are going to be uncoated, so they're not going to be enameled or anything like that. They're just bare carbon steel that require seasoning. This pan can be used for anything. It's completely oven safe and broiler safe, unlike the Dubai Mineral B with that stupid coating on the handle. But we'll get to that in a second. I've cooked everything in this pan. I've baked, I've made pizza, it sears a mean steak. The Matfer was also featured in America's Test Kitchen as the best value and the winner that they recommended for carbon steel pans. And honestly, I think that has a lot to do with its recent popularity. You can find this Matfer at around $65 to $75 for this exact size. The price has gone up since I bought mine many years ago at $55. Now let's talk about the Dubai Mineral B. I have the 11-inch model, which I find perfect for two people. I love how this thing performs and it feels. I went with a smaller pan because I already had the Matfer, and I wanted to use both, so I figured I would let the Matfer be the dedicated for high order items and hungry family or friends, and the Dubai was going to be more of a personal everyday pan. The Dubai does have cons, and it's related to the Mineral B model and the coated handle, which limits its use in the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit at no more than 10 minutes or so. It's also really pricey. It comes in at $90 currently, which is a heck of a lot more money than I paid for it years ago at $65. But it also has gained popularity. If I have a regret, I wish I would have bought their Carbon Plus model, which comes with a oven-safe handle. I think it's now a stainless steel handle, but that's also went up in price. In my opinion, a pan is not very professional if it's limited in the oven or the broiler. I think the coating was added to aid in the handle getting hot on the stovetop, but here's the good news. If you're like me, and you don't care, I seasoned my pan in the oven for about an hour, and the coating on the handle actually just burnt off and the rubber B logo fell off. I've had no issues at all since I've done that, and it works just like the Matfer in the oven or the broiler now. So let's talk about quality. Both pans have zero issues, there's no warping, although that has a lot to do more with improper use or user error. The rivets are sturdy, the handles are perfect with no signs of giving out, and the seasoning has been great. They really have treated me really good for the last 5-10 years or so. The Dubai was a lot easier to season for some reason, in my opinion. The Matfer had some issues, but it's normal stuff. It wasn't anything crazy. The seasoning did get stripped, a couple of times here and there. I think they were mainly due to user error on my part, but it came right back up. And also at the time, I really didn't use the Matfer that much, so I think that had a lot to do with it. I do want to tell you, both pans were a pain to initially clean and prep for seasoning because of the protective coating or wax used during the shipping process. So please keep that in mind. You really do have to make sure that the pans are clean. If you're looking for a video on common mistakes during seasoning or troubleshooting bad seasoning like sticking or peeling or so forth, I have a video on that. Go watch that. I try to go over some basic issues that I've ran across or people have sent me on my social media. And they're really common issues, but primarily they're mostly related to having a dirty pan to begin with or not getting that shipping wax completely off. So with all the cons that I mentioned, why do I like the DeBuyer more? It's because the DeBuyer acts more like a cast iron than a true carbon steel pan, but it still has all those great features shared with stainless steel, like a better response to temperature changes. Remember when I said that carbon steel behaves somewhere in the middle between cast iron and stainless steel? That's very, very true with the Matfer. Even though it's a larger pan than the DeBuyer, when I use the Matfer and then pick up a cast iron or stainless steel pan, I can tell the difference. It has more searing power, it's heavier and all that, everything that comes with cast iron. But with the DeBuyer, I feel it's similar enough to cast iron that it's totally replaced cast iron for me. Basically, if I didn't own the DeBuyer and only had the Matfer, I would still feel the need to own a cast iron pan. But if it was the other way around, the DeBuyer would fill in that cast iron need for me. Now I've stopped using cast iron because I have the Matfer and the DeBuyer, but if I didn't have both, that's where I personally stand. The DeBuyer is heavier and it has some of that weight and density to it. Even now, compared to the larger Matfer 12-inch plus pan, the DeBuyer is still really hefty, but it's still lighter than an equivalent cast iron pan with the same size. I know that sounds confusing, but you really do have to own both brands and use them side by side to know what I'm talking about. There's a difference, trust me. Actually, a viewer that contacted me on social media, he didn't get it either. He bought the Matfer at first and didn't understand why the DeBuyer would be any different. He decided to give the DeBuyer a try and instantly understood what I meant, even with the seasoning process. I think he prefers the DeBuyer over the Matfer now, but I know that he likes both of them. But like I said, you can't go wrong with either brands. And if you're like me, just buy both of them. That's it for me, guys. I'll catch you on the next video.